President Trump has condemned the New Zealand attacks. 50 people were killed and more than 30 others were injured when a self-proclaimed white nationalist opened fire in 2 mosques. President Trump was asked about that issue of white nationalism last week.
Mr. President, do you see today white nationalism as a rising threat around the world?
I don't really. I think it's a small group of people that have very, very serious problems. I guess if you look at what happened in New Zealand, perhaps that's a case. I don't know enough about it yet. They're just learning about the person and the people involved. But it's certainly a terrible thing.
Joining us live now is Brian Levin with the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at Cal State San Bernardino. Brian, appreciate you coming on today. We just heard, obviously, there from President Trump. Critics have said that the president is sort of downplaying the threat of white nationalism in this country and abroad. What do you make of the response that he has given so far to the shootings in New Zealand?
Well, it's factually inaccurate, and it really stands in contradiction of some of the main reports that are out there. Europol, for instance, found that right-wing extremist arrests had doubled 2017 over 16. Hate crimes in the United States, according to the FBI, were up 17% in 2017. And our research center, the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at Cal State University San Bernardino, we found in 2018 in 30 of America's largest cities, including San Francisco, by the way, which hit a decade high. It might have been an all-time high. In 2018, we've seen the 5th consecutive increase for America's major cities in 2018. Moreover, Southern Poverty Law Center found a record number of hate groups. We've also found at our center an increase in homicides by white nationalists and far right-wing extremists. So I really don't know what facts he bases his contentions on, but even his own report from 2018 mentioned quite significantly the threat of violence from white nationalists.
Okay, Brian, so that brings me to my next question, which is, what do you attribute this rise to?
Great question. I think there are several things. One is there are now charismatic political leaders who have a message that is attractive to white nationalists, particularly with respect to immigration. And we've seen, by the way, this happen around the world. So, for instance, in Europe, far-right parties are polling in the double digits. I'm not talking about traditional conservative parties. I'm talking about far-right parties, for instance. Also, the advent of social media and what that's been able to do is spread this radicalization to the far corners of the earth, literally. We saw that with respect to Dylan Roof, the Charleston church shooter, who got radicalized largely on the internet. We saw the Tree of Life shooter, Bowers, also get engaged with hate on the internet, as well as this killer in New Zealand.
We know that the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, they have issued warnings talking about exactly what you're saying, the rise in these hate crimes and these white supremacist groups in this country. Do you think that the federal government is focusing enough on these groups?
No, I don't think they are. But luckily, there are some wonderful people within the federal government who I've had the opportunity to talk to who believe this should be more of a priority. And indeed, I'm asking Congress to hold hearings on this as well. And I think it would bode well that we do some things within the state, too. One other thing real quickly. This week, there will be hearings up in Sacramento to help the state better track hate crimes. And I think everyone should support your Bay Area legislator, Assembly Member Kansen Chu, in that regard. There are a lot of things that can be done at the local as well as the national level.
And Brian, as we wrap it up here, what are some of those steps that at the national level and the local level can be taken?
Sure. Well, first, I think we have to recognize that this kind of threat is a national security, domestic terror threat, identified as such and treated as such bureaucratically and administratively. Make it a priority. Also, with regard to our regional information sharing systems with respect to law enforcement, we have to have them put more of a focus on white nationalists. And indeed, many of the local law enforcement involved in these fusion centers and joint task forces know about this. And again, the bully pulpit our political leaders have to be strong and say, this kind of Islamophobia, this kind of terrorism has no place in a civilized society. When Muslims are slaughtered, guess what? It's terrorism too, people.
All right, Brian Levin from the Center for Study of Hate and Extremism at Cal State San Bernardino. Brian, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.